I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Welcome back to the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. Today we're talking with Adam Anderson of Hook Security, which is a cybersecurity company from Greenville, South Carolina that helps companies deal with social engineering attacks. We're not talking about that today because I wanted to have Adam come in and explain his 4 stages of business model. I love this model, and I'm going to give you my own take on it in a separate episode. But why are we thinking about these different stages of business? Well, you need to know where your business is. It's somewhere between startup and fully functioning business, and what you should be doing and how you can improve your business. Too often we can get distracted with shiny objects, and we may want to rush into implementing changes that we think will improve the service our company delivers. But if we get distracted and try and implement something that our business can't support, that may just result in waste and lost time and effort. So we're going to focus on figuring out where our business is in those 4 stages, which stage may be the right one for us, and finally, what those 3 levers are that business owners can pull to help accelerate growth and get our business to the right level. With that out of the way, let's get to the interview. Hey, 5-Star listeners. Before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front line so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-Star. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Adam Anderson, it is wonderful to have you on the podcast today.
I am thrilled to be here. I love that we were able to connect. I still remember fondly all the adventures that we've been on across the world. And when you said, hey, we should have a chat, I was like, I feel loved. Yes, let's do this.
Validation. Here it is.
And I really need it from external sources. That's exactly right.
Right. So, Adam, I'm having you on my little podcast about client service for lawyers, but it turns out you are not a lawyer and you're not a client service expert. But the reason you are here is you have been a serial entrepreneur. I think some people may not like that term, but you've owned and run multiple businesses having nothing to do with the law. But you have given me a lot of really good guidance over the years and helping me clarify my thoughts, which is super important. And a month or 2 ago, I was trying to figure out, I had this idea in my head. There were these stages of business, and somebody had said it, and I was like, it's too good of an idea. I definitely did not come up with this. And so I had texted you and a few other friends. I was like, where did this come from? And you texted back and said, oh, that's me. And then you sent me to a link to your YouTube channel, which we will include the links to your YouTube stuff so people can hear you alone without all the nonsense that I'm going to interpose today. But I'm going to hand it off to you. Adam, explain your concept of the 4 stages of business.
Sure. So I was very curious on why some businesses just never grow. And I started researching it. I worked with a bunch of coaches. I read a bunch of stuff. And it seems like that people just keep getting stuck at different, what seem to be stages. And so what we did is we figured out that really there's 4 different phases of business, and you need different skill sets and different mentality to go from one to the other, to the other, to the other. And I coined these as business is happening to me, by me, through me, and for me. To me is, something that's happened externally. I have to start a business. Then business is happening by me as I'm Superman, I'm superhero, I'm doing a super amount of work and it's all by me. Through me is now I've built amazing teams, processes, and systems, and the company runs itself. And then finally, for me is the business or organization is running without me even being involved, but still is accomplishing the things that I am most interested in having the business accomplish. And all that sounds great, but it also sounds, I think the legal term is hippy dippy, I think is what I found. It's a bit hippy dippy. So there's an amazing consultant out of Colorado, business consultant that I absolutely love. His name is Eric Cartman, and he puts it into startup, cash in, sell out, bro down. And those are actually very, very accurate because you do have to go through this pain with a startup. You do have to take your winnings, cash it back into the business. Eventually you sell out, meaning that you're not the most important person in the world anymore. You've gotten out of the picture. You've taken some money off the table. You've sold out a bit and you actually decide to grow. And then finally, bro down is when the systems, processes, and people that you have really worked hard to create are running without you. And you get to go do day drinking at 11 a.m. That's basically the concept. And then I'll tell the 3 levers that you have to pull. There's 3 things that change in every single phase. It's how do you leverage people, processes, and systems. There's different ways of using all 3 of them. And the reason people fail to switch from startup to cash in or from cash in to sell out is that they still use the same strategies around people, processes, and systems to execute their business model or their mission and don't have the knowledge or the aptitude or the emotional fortitude to change those things. So does that kind of make sense why you've got these stair-stepping stages?
Yes, there is so much to unpack, and it's a shame we only have 4 hours for the rest of this episode. So, one of the things I definitely want to come back to is these 3 levers, but I want to spend a few minutes on the different levels because you've hit on things that part of what I've said is, and what I learned from somebody else is that what got you here won't get you there.
Right.
And so when you're jumping in that startup level, what gets you out of startup level won't get you to bro down level.
Without a doubt, that's correct.
And I'll tell you right now, I'm stuck transitioning, out of the for me to the through me. The last month or so has been more time spent training my people how to do the things that I know how to do, but I need them to do for me. And if they can do it at 85% of what I can do, at least I'm getting it that much better. And, I'm not starting from a 0. There are certain things, certain levers, lever's probably not the right word right here, but there are certain aspects of tasks I'm unwilling to give up on for control reasons, for licensure, protection reasons, but realizing if I can get it 80% complete from them, that's 80% that I'm not doing. All I have to do is double check what they're doing. And that's delving real deep on a transition issue, but you look like you want to say something, so I'm going to shut my mouth.
You're hitting on something super important is before you jump into this thing, I'm here to give everyone permission to stop at whatever level they want, right? You might really experience that you deeply hate, and it crushes your life and, nobody likes you anymore because you hate this transition from cash in or for me to through me, right? I'm sorry, by me to through me. And it is completely okay to live at any one of these phases. Nobody should ever tell you that you're not successful if you don't reach the bro down. As a matter of fact, I've been there. It sucks. There's nothing to do. You're very, very bored. What did I do? I went and started more companies. That's why serial entrepreneurship is if you go through all these phases and you make yourself obsolete, then you just do the phases again. And so there are some really, really successful, happy people who never get out of by me, because they're the hero who really understands how everything goes. They are frustrated training other people. And I'm sure there are a lot of law practices that have independent lawyers who do literally everything. Maybe there's an assistant or legal aid involved, but never let anybody tell you that you have to go through these phases, through these different levels, right?
Right. Or I would put the refinement on it. You don't have to progress through these phases. You're going to at least hit phase 1 or phase 2, whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
And I mean, the thing that I'm seeing now is getting out of what you're calling the by me phase is I can't grind any harder. Like I'm out of time. I can't do it all myself. If I want to keep growing or even stay at what I've built, I've got to train other people to do it for me. Things are being done through me in the business, as you put it.
Right.
And I can't just work more and more hours because I would like to do other things other than work more and more hours. So as we put it together, I think most lawyers get stuck and stop at the by me level. Like the incentives are perverse because we bill by the hour. And there's a whole nother conversation on why hourly billing is awful. And I avoid it at all costs on projects where we know what we're doing. But the incentive is generally there. When you bill by the hour, you grind more because you make more.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you think that lawyers will be naturally less likely to transition out of by me because the entire history of the lawyer's education and success has been you work hard, you show up, you be the best of the best of the best, and you be the smartest guy or gal in the room, and your personal effort has what got you to where you are now. And so when you think about transitioning from by me to through me, you have to take your hands off of some of these levers and some of these processes. And I would imagine, and this is me projecting on your industry, I would imagine that kind of transition is just naturally not easy for a lawyer who is a really intelligent human being.
Yes, absolutely. It is hard because we're trained to be the ones who are risk-averse pessimists. And when we put our names on something, we need to make sure that everything in that pleading, the document, tax return, whatever it is, that has our name and sign of approval on it. So it's hard to have somebody else come in and put something down for you, and then for you to have released your hands from the wheel enough to say, it's okay if somebody else gets this to me. So you're right. It's hard for us because we have been trained to always be worried about this sort of things. But what I think it is that we get to a point where for us to progress, you have to trust people. You have to set up those systems and processes, which I do want you to explain the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
But setting up, how do we set it up so that they're getting the 80% work without having to spend the years that we spent learning why this is right and wrong? Like for a paralegal or even a first-year associate attorney, like fresh out of law school, has zero experience, don't know what they're doing. It's more important for them to get the reps and see, this is what it looks like. This is what you should expect. These are kind of the parameters of what is acceptable. And after you've seen 15 or 20 or 100 of them, then you're going to start putting the pieces together. You'll start knowing why this works or why we did it this way.
Right.
But having talked to people across different businesses, one of my mastermind groups, I was like, well, lawyers are terrible at training people. And one of the other participants was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not just in my business.
Like, the punchline is everyone's terrible at training. There's a difference between a world-class athlete who has a natural gift, who has been coached up to do something amazing, and a coach, right? I don't want to be coached by Michael Jordan. I don't have his natural gifts. I want to be coached by the people who coached Michael Jordan. There's different skill sets that are needed. And this is going right back to the transition. If you are the world's best at what you do, chances are you might be really bad teaching other people how to do it, because so many things just come naturally to you. That's why it's often helpful that during these transition periods, you bring in outside help, and not necessarily someone do the work, but just sounding boards. I love the fact that you're in a mastermind group, because that gives you some perspective that, oh, wait, maybe I need to approach this from a different way because I'm talking to different kind of people.
Right. And lawyers love thinking we're just in this little protected bubble where there's business, and then with zero overlap in the Venn diagram, there is the practice of law, when that's not actually how it works. This was a conversation you and I had a few years ago where there's the business structure, and I should know this because I've written about it so many times, like the business model, how you make business or how you make money in your business is different for everybody. But then the framework is mostly the same, because you're always going to have HR and accounting and accounts payable and physical plant and this, that, and the other. Everybody's got it in a different mix.
Yeah.
But everybody's got to have those pieces to run a business.
Yeah, we all have revenue minus expense equals profit. And there are mechanisms inside each of those columns that have to happen in every single business. And the thing that is different typically is product, service, customer. However, just like you said, the infrastructure of all of this stuff is pretty similar.
So where do we want to go next? You talked about the 3 levers, and I know that there are different ways of pulling these levers as we go from level to level. So I will just kind of toss up the softball. How do those levers work, and what are we looking at as we transition?
I'm going to tell a story about how this all works together. So people, systems, and processes. These are the different levers. And I want you to imagine that we are a logging company. And we have vice presidents, managers, and we have employees. And the employees are the actual loggers. And so what they do is they do the process of logging, where they go out there with axes, and that's one process of how do I swing the axe. Another process is how do I drag the tree, another process. So it's all the tactics that you're doing are your processes. And every business has a long list of tactics. This is how I do what I do. The system is what the manager is looking at. The manager is thinking to himself, okay, I need to know what step 1 through step 12. I need to know how this process is going to affect this process. They have overwatch on the system. So being really, really good at dragging logs to the forest means nothing if the process around cutting the trees down is broken. And so the managers look at the complete ecosystem of of how to do the processes. And then the people, these I like to say are, of course, all of the folks in the middle of it. But if you have a manager and you have employees that all they've ever done is cut down trees and drag the logs, and you don't have somebody who climbed the tree, looked around and said, crap, we're in the wrong forest, right? Yeah. So you think about the fact that you need someone to climb the tree and look at the overarching activity of the business or the organization to determine, we need to change the systems and change the processes. Because inside of the system, people might get frustrated. There might be friction, but often it's hard to change a system from within a system. And so you need to refresh people. And I say refresh people in 2 ways. I have very, very little success training existing employees to make these transitions. However, I have a 100% track record of trying, and it is incredibly difficult. It is incredibly difficult to take somebody who is really good at swinging an axe and saying, good news, we got chainsaws. Let me teach you how to use a chainsaw. We lost a lot of really, really good nurses in the medical industry when we went to electronic medical records because they didn't want to move away from their charts. As you change systems, the people who execute the processes often aren't fits, and vice versa. Sometimes when you discover new processes, the system doesn't support the new process and you have to remove all of that. So when you're thinking about people, systems, and processes, think about processes as the tasks for accomplishing your mission. Think about systems as organizing every single task so that they happen at the right time with the right amount of resources. And then think about the people as the folks who are executing all this stuff, but understand the bigger vision of the direction that the organization is going. And as that changes from stage to stage to stage, if you don't bring people along with you, what will happen is you'll waste a lot of money. And I like to waste about $300,000 a year was my track record trying to change and make these jumps because I would do great plans, but I wouldn't get people involved, right? So I hope that, does that help? Is that good?
It does. And because initially when you started talking about people, I was thinking of it as just we're going to include in people only the executive or C levels, but we really need all of our people on board. Everybody's got to understand. So even if our logger doesn't know how the digital log splitter that turns it into 2x4s and kindling and everything else once it gets inside the sawmill, he doesn't need to know that, but he does need to understand how he fits in, at least in a general way, so that when we tell him, hey, we need you to do it this way, it's not just this random thing of hold your axe this way. It's hold your axe this way because you're making a cut that ends up saving us more down the line.
Absolutely. I love where you're heading with this. So if you haven't heard of him, Dan Pink has a great TED Talk about what motivates employees. And he touches on 3 things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And so when the people in your company feel like they have mastery in what they do and that you trust them to do their job with autonomy and they're plugged into what the purpose of the organization is, you have an amazing rock star of your team. But as you move from phase to phase, purpose can change. Mastery can erode because there's new tasks that need to be done. And if you try to make these leaps, but you don't give yourself the grace and the patience to allow your people to develop autonomy, mastery, and purpose inside of the new direction in the new phase, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Right. And the mastery part, as lawyers, we are trained to be perfectionists. Make the perfect the enemy of the good. And that works in a very small portion of the business. If we explode back out the business to not just look at delivery of legal services, well, we're going to include HR and accounting and sales and marketing. That's not a place where it has to be perfect all the time. Getting from 0 to 1 is going to be enough. We can come back and refine later. And that's a place where we don't want to do that. We'd much rather at least start doing a thing, figure out we're either doing something good and keep going, or this is going to take more time that we're not willing to invest in. We're going to shut it down and come back. Whatever it is, don't just keep plowing through it over in your head. Take some physical steps on it so that you're doing something on that. And your mastery goes down.
Yep.
But that's okay. This is how you learn. And, we've got to have people who are willing to adapt and know that the job they had last week is not going to be the job they have next week. It will still be the same chair, but we want them growing because everybody else is growing.
Yeah, I love a culture where people are excited to be journeymen again. If you look at apprentice, journeyman, mastery, master of crafts, some of the funnest time is when you're the journeyman, where you are in the middle of discovering something new and you're seeing how these pieces fit together again. And so if you're building a team of human beings to help you along, the best thing they can have, other than the basic characters and all the things. But the thing that I'm really, really excited about when I bump into somebody is somebody who is excited about becoming a journeyman over and over again. That's somebody who will grow with me through my stages. Now, there are some people who I only want to be super excited about mastery of one key thing. And I know full well that as I change, that thing's going to go away. And that is somebody who's temporarily with me. And you're going to have a mixture of both.
Right. And when you say mastery, lawyers love, or not all of them, we end up getting focused on certain areas of practice. And my goal is to take care of my clients. I have my set of tools. I want to develop new tools, but the goal is still, I want people to call me to solve certain problems. If you want to plan for how to take care of your estate when you die, how to deal with some tax problems, that's what I'm here for. There are plenty of things that are related that I don't care to be master in, and I don't want to be, and I'm not going to even try. I have friends I can send that work to so that they can apply their master level skills to it and solve the client's problem better than I would.
Yes. And the same thing's true with every other aspect of your business. I have no desire. I used to. So I was cybersecurity was my background and a similar thing. Perfect is really what we're required because one breach and where a lot of bad things happen. And I had a hard time putting my cybersecurity implementer hat down and putting a business owner's hat on because it's very black and white, safe, not safe, mastery, not mastery. But in business, it's very gray hat, very much where I have to understand how everything fits together. But there is so many people in the world who are better at it than I am that there's no way I can do what I want to do at the pace I want to go and try to be mastery at every single point of it all. So I resonate with what you just said.
In your technical, in your product, you have to be making the perfect the enemy of the good. Yep. Same like lawyers, but everywhere else, just get going. And
get going.
Yeah. And I think that's something that you were talking about in your levers of part of the way I'm thinking about it is you start from a kind of digital on or off in whether or not you're doing things. And you end up progressing to, well, we're doing this versus not doing this to fine tuning things so that you can make it better for your business. It's not just, we need to send out 2.3 PPC ads every day because that's what the firm down the hall does. It's we send out 3 pay-per-click ads per day because we found when we send out 4, we're wasting money and we're getting slotted in the wrong time, blah, blah, blah. Finish that off.
Well, I love your example because what you're talking about is experimentation and learning from experimentation. And what most of us want is a playbook. Give me the playbook to go from businesses happening by me to businesses happening through me. Just give me the playbook and let me follow it. And the punchline is, sure, we're all doing revenue minus expense equals profit, but how we do it is unique. And there is no playbook. You have different human beings, different customers, different everything. And so you have to go through an experimental cycle between each one of these phases or every time you roll out a new process or system to learn. And you can de-risk some of it with, listening to wise counsel, reading the right books, doing all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to act and you have to learn.
Right. I mean, the playbook idea, having been told by who knows how many people, just have a training manual for everything that goes on in your business, have an onboarding manual, even if it's as simple as have a dress code for your office. Yes, I do. I want that. It took more time than I wanted. What people, I think, really benefit from is here are 3 or 4 examples. Like, we don't know which one it is for you. You'll need to adapt to it. What is it? If you go to the BVI, they're a former British colony, or they still are, and it's perfectly acceptable to wear shorts as business attire because it's hot down there. And so most of the standard work dress codes that you might pull up won't address that. But that's fine. You go out, like, leverage somebody else's work. The internet's out there. Go grab those things and then tweak for you.
Oh, dude, I love to think of it like jazz music, right? We have a melody that we all are playing on, but each and every one of us puts our own riff on it to create something amazing and beautiful and enjoying. And probably your wife won't like the music. That's what happens with me personally. But anyway, I digress. But that's the idea, is that the chaos is actually music. The difference is actually music. But you have to have melodies and beats that are dependable for you to follow and riff off of in order to create something that is consumable at the end. If you just try to go do everything, you're going to have a giant cloud of horrible sounds.
Right.
I was going to drop colorful metaphors there, but I didn't know if this was a PG-13 rated. But we're going to play it safe.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's what I mean. This is amazing opportunity to play jazz and to collaborate and to work off of what other people have already done, but then put your own slant on it.
Right. And it's easy to get sucked into the grind out more work when things start to take hold, your business starts taking off. You're getting it's almost like an undertow. You're getting just sucked out to sea in all of this new work. And at the same time, you're trying to wrangle a team, do all of this other stuff. And if you're so focused on, I have to do all of this start to finish.
Yeah.
It's going to be as destructive as if you hadn't figured things out earlier on.
So can I test out a metaphor or analogy that just popped into my head since we're talking, and then you tell me, gosh, Adam, that was brilliant, regardless of what you think.
I'll practice.
Affirmations. Yeah. If we go with this jazz music thing, picture like a saxophone player on stage just going to town, and people begin coming on stage and they begin riffing. And now you have a small group of musicians playing. You got a trumpet, you got a trombone. We don't count drums as musicians, but we need them there. So the drummer's there, right? Maybe a piano, and you got this jazz band, right? But then eventually you want to scale up. You want to do more. And the band needs more people. And that saxophone player now has to become a conductor. And you move into big band. You move to where you have, 20 people on stage, 50 people on stage to create a new kind of thing. You're still doing music. But your complexity has gone up. And the requirements for a solo jazz player are different than the requirements for somebody in a small band, which are different than the conductor, and they certainly are different than the guy who's financing and owning the amphitheater. And yeah, I feel like people should just forgive themselves for not having the skill set right away and go and do the work humbly to learn the new thing and do the transitions.
Right. And understanding, again, what got you here won't be the things that get you there. You're going to have to learn those new skill sets. You can get to a fine enough place, and if you're happy just grinding by yourself, you can do really well. If you want to grow more, the skills that will get you to grow more, you're not going to have $1 million net profit business just grinding by yourself. That's what, It's $500 an hour for a full-time job. There's a lot of back end that goes along with something like that, and there's no way you're going to do it by yourself.
So wouldn't it be true then to say that you should probably do a lot of really good vision work about picking your shot so that you'll know where you're trying to get in these different stages?
Yes. That's brilliant, Adam. How do we do that?
Oh, dang. Well, I'm glad you asked. There's a lot of different ways of doing this, and I can give you guys a process that my wife and I use when we work with entrepreneurial couples, because one of the things we found is that if you, as the business owner, has one vision and your spouse has another, normally there's some problems. I'm just throwing that out there. But yeah, so let me give you a couple tools. Here's the high level. Pretend you're sitting down and having a beverage with you 20 years from now, and ask that person questions, and you will be surprised about what they get. And I say break it into 3 things. Break it into personal, family, and business. Hey, everything, Adam, in the future went great. Man, you look like you're in amazing shape. You must have started taking CrossFit and diet seriously. Well done, me of the future. Tell me about it, right? And so you just listen and you have a conversation with yourself, and you often will get surprised. One of the things that surprised me is it turns out I don't want to own a company or run a company with 500 500 employees. I like a 20-person shop. I like knowing the names of everybody and knowing if they have kids, if they don't have kids. I like that kind of setting. But I was setting myself up on a trajectory to grow a giant company. Now I don't. Now I set up infrastructures for giant companies, put a CEO in place, and fire myself immediately because I don't want that, right? But I couldn't figure that out. So I try to skip the buy me stage as much as I possibly can. I start up and then I jump into businesses going through me, and then I jump over to businesses happening for me because I figured out some stuff about me by doing some visioning work. And there's so many ways of doing it. Just Google whatever you want and go through a process. But self-reflection, I think, is super important before you decide what kind of business you want.
Right, because if you don't know where you're going, you will get somewhere. It may not be where you want to go.
Exactly. I'm working real hard. I don't know how I ended up in this canyon.
Which the canyon may be a great place if you wanted to be there.
Yeah.
If you want to be in canyons, go right, head right to the bottom of the canyon. It's great down there. But you probably want to plan to get there first before you rocket off and, you're flying blind, driving with your goggles on or whatever it is. Well, Adam, we are running low on time. I think we're at a good place to start landing the plane, but is there anything else that I haven't asked you about that I really should have asked you about?
I really feel like the hardest part of transitioning these stages is mental resiliency, because in the middle of it, everything is going to go wrong. There is no game plan. And if you are a highly successful person used to being successful, the setbacks are going to be traumatic. When it doesn't work, and it won't, you are going to be encouraged not to do it. So I would say that self-work, building mental resilience and having a clear vision of why you're doing this is absolutely critical before you start on any kind of transformational process for your organization, your business, your practice.
And it's not even just in a business. Just thinking all the way back, well, I wanted to go to law school. What's the end goal? It's not, well, for a lot of people, it's, I don't want to go get a real job. I can hide out in school for 3 more years. But knowing you're going to be bad at things for a while in some of these areas, like you didn't get to be good at any particular practice of law, whatever you call cybersecurity, defense, special forces. You had to be really bad at it for a while, beat your head against the wall.
Absolutely.
And making sure you're telling not only yourself that and prepping yourself for getting punched in the nose, but letting your team know the things that we're doing aren't intuitive always. And some of it may seem really simple. I can think back to one of my first weeks as a paid attorney, and I was asked to write a simple fax message to one of our trustees. I sat there and stared at it for a while, then went and asked one of the paralegals, and she was like, "This is 3 sentences. Let me show you how to use the typewriter or how to use the keyboard." I was like, "Oh, okay. Maybe I was overthinking it." And it's the sort of thing of just knowing that learning is hard, especially when you're building out your practice, training somebody, getting out of law school, and even just doing anything.
Agreed.
Excellent. Adam, this has been a lot of fun. Where can people get a hold of you?
So you could go to my website, which is adamandersonceo.com. I'm also on the YouTubes at Adam Anderson CEO, or you can go to one of my new projects, which is the cyberstartup.com, where I am teaching people who are cybersecurity professionals how to start their own companies. So happy to engage with anybody who has questions around this kind of stuff. I just think it's fascinating. The best way to do good in the world is be brave enough to go first and do something other people won't do. So thank you, all of you out there doing just that.
Thanks so much, Adam. Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.